The expulsion of Polish Jews from Germany, fall or autumn 1938. And incidentally, around the same time, Poland also tried to get rid of thousands or even tens of thousands of its Jewish inhabitants by, if I remember correctly, invalidating those Jews' passports who had been there, residing there, was it less than 15 years, and then alternatively, additionally, it only allowed in the early months of the so-called Anschluss, or early several months of the so-called Anschluss, or the occupation of Austria by Germany, those Jews to immigrate or return to Poland from Austria who had visited Poland at least once in the previous 5 years. So Jews from Eastern Europe, mostly from Russian and Polish territory, had been coming to Germany since the 19th century, driven from their homes by anti-Jewish laws, pogroms, and poverty. In 1938, there were approximately 50,000 Jews with Polish citizenship living in Germany. Not infrequently, they had been settled there for several generations. Many had been born in Germany and considered it home. After Austria was annexed to Germany in March 1938, the Polish government was afraid that the approximately 20,000 Austrian Jews with Polish citizenship would flee back to Poland. It thus suspended the validity of all Polish passports whose holders had been abroad for more than 5 years. This law took effect on March 31st, 1938, but it was only after the Munich Agreement on September 30th, 1938, that a decree was issued allowing the passports of all Poles living abroad to be checked. After October 31st, 1938, the holders of Polish passports issued abroad were only allowed onto Polish territory if their passports contained a special note made by Polish consulates. In this way, most of the 50,000 Polish Jews settled in Germany would lose their state citizenship overnight. After German-Polish talks failed, the German Foreign Ministry handed over the whole affair to the Gestapo, or the notorious and brutal German secret police, which on October 27th, 1938 started forcibly deporting Polish Jews over the Polish border. In some places only the men were deported, since the Nazis expected they would be joined by their wives and children all the same, while in other places women and children were deported as well. Those arrested included old people, some of whom died during deportation. Some of those unfortunate Jews also committed suicide. The arrested Jews were forced through threats and violence to illegally cross the border with Poland. Approximately 17,000 Jews were expelled in this way. However, the Polish authorities refused to accept them, and so most of them had to live for many long weeks in no man's land or the Polish border area. And given the fact that it was already late autumn, they were suffering from the cold. In most cases, they were driven into the surroundings of the Polish towns of Zbaszyn and Bytom. In Zbaszyn, according to various sources, between 6,000 and 10,000 Jews gathered in the space of a few days. A large refugee camp was created in Zbaszyn with help from Jewish aid organizations. The refugees' personal freedom was restricted. Not until the end of November 1938, the Polish authorities decided to disband the camp and allow the refugees residency in Poland. With the help of Jewish communities and organizations, many of them managed to arrange travel visas and leave the country or to settle in Poland. After negotiating with the Polish authorities, the German Nazis allowed the temporary return of a small group of men so that they could put their affairs, such as directions on the selling deals on the sale of their remaining property, in order in Germany. Finally, the Polish authorities also permitted the arrival of the family members of Jews expelled at the end of October 1938. Among those sent to Zbashin was the Grinspan or Grünspan family, whose son Herschel was living in Paris at the time and decided to draw international attention to the plight of the expelled Polish Jews. He would have wanted to shoot the German ambassador to France. However, neither the German ambassador nor the deputy German ambassador were available, so he decided to shoot the third highest ranking official, Mr. Ernst vom Rath. He fatally wounded vom Rath with a pistol, and after vom Rath's death, the Nazis used his death as a welcome pretext or excuse to unleash the anti-Jewish pogrom known as Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, which meant that many thousands of Jewish shops and many Jewish synagogues were looted and damaged. Their windows were broken throughout Germany. And also, at the very least, many tens of Jews were killed, probably hundreds. The case of the Polish Jews expelled from Germany shows that Jewish refugees were having more and more difficulty finding a refuge from persecution. Not only Poland, but other countries were closing their borders in an effort to prevent a flood of Jewish immigrants. And sadly, those countries included in greater or lesser measure, for example, Finland, my distant native land in Northern Europe. Britain at least put restrictions in, and tragically, even the United States and Canada, especially the United States, which prided itself on being the leader of the free world and a refuge for the world's oppressed, but refused to let these Jewish immigrants in, because if they had been let in, they would almost certainly have all survived the Second World War. Instead, many, if not most of them, perished in the Holocaust. So in that sense, it was somewhat hypocritical of the US and Canadian political leaders after the Second World War to accuse the Germans especially of having massacred those Jews, because they had not effectively tried to shelter those Jews who could still have settled there if they had been allowed in. But there were domestic political considerations. Both the US and Canadian political authorities and the Finnish and British ones probably concluded that the political cost would be too heavy, because there were anti-Semitic groups in, for example, all of those countries. And one of them, at least one of them, if not two, at least the United States had a notable German minority. And Canada also, although that was quite heavily concentrated then in Western Canada.